Depois de muita negociação com a Sony, a Marvel finalmente conseguiu trazer o Homem-Aranha de volta para casa. O personagem até então parecia estar desgastado com o público, mas a Marvel buscou apresentar não apenas seu lado heróico, mas também focou no adolescente por trás da máscara, mostrando um lado pouco explorado do Teioso até então. A história do Homem-Aranha no cinema é longa, começa lá no final dos anos 90, quando a Sony decidiu produzir um filme do Teioso. Para isso, ela reuniu Sam Raimi e Tobey Maguire em um filme que virou um marco do cinema, ao ultrapassar 100 milhões de dólares somente na primeira semana. A parceria rendeu 3 filmes de sucesso. Mas na quarta produção, Raimi se desentendeu com a Sony e Maguire deixou a franquia em solidariedade. Com isso, a Sony tomou a controversa decisão de fazer um reboot apenas 10 anos do lançamento original. Os filmes tiveram um desempenho abaixo do esperado na bilheteria. A recepção por parte da crítica foi negativa. Foi essa combinação que fez com que a Sony negociasse os direitos do herói com a Marvel.
We had lunch in Amy's beautiful office and talking about the future of Spider-Man, and I said, how about we do it together?
Yeah, he did. And at first I thought, I don't know how I do this or how we can do this, and how dare you? And then I thought, oh my God, this would be fantastic. This is the only way to do it. Because the truth is that when, we worked with Kevin on the first couple of movies because he worked with Avi and he worked at Marvel at that time. In the later years, when he was really busy becoming himself, he would, read scripts and help, but I wanted his real brain on this because there is nobody better at it.
We really wanted to show people, you haven't seen what Spider-Man can be. Because he was never created to be a hero by himself in a city. He was created to be an unbelievably different type of hero, younger, have other responsibilities, in contrast to the Iron Man and the Thor and the Captain Americas out there. And now we get to do it.
The door will most likely remain closed until morning.
Morning? Hey, Suit Lady. I kind of feel bad calling you Suit Lady, I think I should probably give you a name. What about Karen?
You can call me Karen, if you would like. Ricochet Web.
Ricochet Web. Cool.
Splitter Web. Web Grenade.
Web Grenade!
Como ele havia sido apresentado em Guerra Civil, a Marvel não achou necessário mostrar sua história de origem, que já era muito conhecida pelo público. Por isso, eles precisavam de um novo mentor para o herói para assumir o lugar do tio Ben. A escolha inicial da produção era Nick Fury, porém o laço do garoto com Tony Stark foi tão forte em Guerra Civil que era praticamente impossível não colocar um Homem de Ferro nesse papel. Para isso, a Marvel só precisou desembolsar a bagatela de 15 milhões de dólares para contar com Robert Downey Jr. A participação teria apenas poucos minutos de tela, mas o investimento valeria a pena, pois todos os filmes da Marvel junto com o ator haviam sido um sucesso de bilheteria, com 4 deles ultrapassando a barreira do bilhão. Por isso, a participação não apenas fortaleceria o laço do Aranha com o universo Marvel, mas também garantiria o interesse do público.
I think the relationship between the two of us is more interesting from your point of view because you suddenly have someone to think about other than Tony Stark, He really cares about Peter, and one of the reasons why he doesn't really want Peter to become an Avenger is because he doesn't want the responsibility of something happening to Peter on his conscience. So it's a nice sort of back and forth of me saying, look, I'm powerful enough to be an Avenger, and him saying, but you're not ready to be an Avenger. So it's a fun back and forth. It's like a big brother, little brother, dad, son type situation.
You know what it's like? Your kid turns 16, and that means they're supposed to be able to drive. But, now there's all those apps where you can find out where they are. It's kind of like that. He's attempting in his own half-assed way to do some modern parenting. And also, the stakes are a lot higher than are you going to get a ticket or be an offender bender. I mean, lest we forget, he pulled Peter Parker into life and death situations shortly after meeting him. Just a year or so ago.
Do you know that I was the only one who believed in you? Everyone else said I was crazy to recruit a 14-year-old kid.
I'm 15.
No, this is where you zip it, all right? The adult is talking. What if somebody had died tonight? Different story, right? Because that's on you. And if you died, I feel like that's on me.
A relação paternal com Tony Stark seria reforçada com o uniforme do herói. Os produtores tentaram imaginar como o Homem-Aranha seria se o Homem de Ferro em pessoa tivesse desenvolvido sua roupa, e por isso pensaram em um traje altamente tecnológico, com sua própria inteligência artificial e capaz de expandir as habilidades do herói, algo nunca visto antes no cinema. Como o período do herói no colégio seria o foco principal da produção, o papel caiu nas mãos de Tom Holland, um garoto que provou ser um fanático pelo herói desde pequeno. Como cresceu no mundo da dança e da ginástica olímpica, as acrobacias para viver o herói vinham com mais facilidade para o ator, em comparação aos outros dois intérpretes do personagem. Além disso, ele entrou em uma série de treinamentos intensos para ficar não apenas com o físico necessário, mas com a elasticidade necessária para viver o Teioso. Praticando também o parkour e instalando um colchão de ar gigante em sua casa. Assim, ele virou verdadeiramente o Homem-Aranha.
The coolest thing is that what they see on the screen is Spider-Man, but it's what I'm doing, if you know what I mean. One, go! Ready? Let's do it! Come on!
Even the sequences that we couldn't capture on a set or wouldn't have been safe or wouldn't have been possible, what we found is we have to actually go back and motion capture Tom in a full motion capture suit to do those parts, because he does it so much better than anyone could actually draw it. So the whole movie is relying on Tom. We need Tom for the motion capture, we need Tom for the ADR, we need Tom for the day on the pages, we need more of Tom. But the end result is, when Tom does it, it is better.
O esforço para revelar outros lados do herói foi real por parte da Marvel. E além do heroísmo, os produtores queriam mostrar os principais dilemas de um adolescente. Tanto é que pular e ganhar o físico do personagem foi a parte fácil pro Tom Holland. A parte difícil mesmo foi voltar ao colégio.
As a joke, I suggested to Marvel that I should go to a high school undercover.
Right.
And it was completely a joke, and Marvel took it completely seriously. I guess they didn't get my British sarcasm.
Yeah, they do that.
And so the next thing I know, I was like, had a backpack with a pencil case on my way to Bronx School of Science.
Oh, boy.
Bronx School of Science is a school for genius
kids, right?
And I am no genius.
You're not?
No, even the teachers didn't know that I was not a real student, so they would bring me up to the front of the class and be like, "What do you think, new kid?" I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Com o núcleo de heróis formado, agora a Marvel precisava escolher um vilão para o filme. Personagens clássicos como o Dr. Octopus, o Duende Verde e o Homem-Areia já haviam sido escolhidos em produções passadas, e o estúdio decidiu escalar um dos rivais mais antigos do Teioso, o Abutre. Para dar um ar realista ao personagem, os produtores precisavam de um bom motivo para o Abutre ter um par de asas. Por isso, eles tentaram imaginar que tipo de coisa ele roubaria e como isso se incorporaria ao seu uniforme. Desse conceito nasceu um novo vilão que chamou a atenção de uma lenda dos filmes de herói, Michael Keaton.
He's a Spider-Man villain who was not created by a science experiment gone wrong. He's a villain who made himself. He's a villain who took these crazy events that happen around him, aliens falling out of the sky, Ultron robots ending up in the outskirts of European countries, and he can either let it steamroll his business and let the world pass him by and feel like he's lesser working class guy, or he can do what he believes right for his family and step up. And unfortunately for us and for the people living in that city, that's stepping into villainy.
He obviously wasn't going to translate too well to a live-action movie in 2017. So what we did is take a step back and then see how can we make him feel scarier.
The idea that you would build a suit to look like a vulture is very showboaty, but if we can come up with a good reason for him to need a wingsuit, then I think it's working backwards from there. Like, why would you have this? Everything should be informed by like a logic. Why is this real? You know, why do you need to fly up to a certain height? If you fly up to a certain height, would you need a helmet? You know, do you need something for when there's no oxygen, when you get to sort of high altitude levels? Do you have to stay warm? Is this military technology or is it this hacked sort of thing?
O ator dos filmes do Batman de Tim Burton era um antigo sonho da produção, mas por conta de um conflito de agendas ele acabou recusando a proposta inicial. Pouco tempo depois, a equipe de Keaton ligou de volta perguntando se ainda havia interesse na participação do ator, e não demorou muito para ele ser confirmado.
Kevin and I, from the very beginning, only saw this part as Michael Keaton.
It was a very enlightening experience getting to work that closely with someone whose attention to detail is just microscopic. Like, I think I caught him counting some steps at one point.
We basically shot the most intense scene of the whole movie the first time I'd met him. The whole scene plays through a mirror, and he was so intimidating, it required no acting on my behalf because I'm just meant to be terrified. There is no one who could play that role better than he could.
Michael Keaton, the original Batman, come on.
We were doing a scene that's actually in the trailer, and Michael Keaton, I've just punched Michael Keaton in the face. Bah! And he's on the floor, and I'm standing over him, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm Spider-Man. And he looked up at me and was like, yeah, well, I'm Batman.
I've seen you around, right? I mean, somewhere. Have we ever, because of even the voice?
He does academic decathlon with me. And he's at my party.
It was a great party. Really great, yeah.
You were there for like 2 seconds.
No, I did not disappear.
Yes, you did. You disappeared like you always do, like you did in DC too.
That's terrible what happened down there in DC, though.
Yeah, well, I actually didn't go up. I saw it off on the ground. Very lucky that he was there that day.
Good old Spider-Man.
A produção precisava agora de um bom elenco para acompanhar Tom Holland. Escalou nomes como Zendaya, Laura Harrier, Tony Revolori e Jacob Batalon, vivendo Ned, um personagem claramente inspirado no Gank Lee, que foi criado por Brian Michael Bendis no Aranha do Universo Ultimate para ser o melhor amigo de Miles Morales. Para o diretor John Watts, era fundamental que o grupo tivesse uma ligação especial e as suas cenas eram tão importantes quanto os momentos de ação.
It's a high school movie. It's a straight up high school movie. It's about a 15-year-old kid. I always describe it as this is the ground level of the Marvel Universe. You know, we know what it's like to be a billionaire playboy inventor, and we know what it's like to be a alien god from another dimension. We're going to learn what it's like to go to the astral plane, and we're also going to learn what it's like, you know, to have just finished going through puberty and be in 10th grade.
Thank you.
And be in Queens.
I wanted to know about the first official photo that you guys did. It's based on The Breakfast Club.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is all of those John Hughes films, like Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink stuff, they actually took place where I grew up in Evanston, Illinois. Like, that was the high school. So when I told John that, like, our first day on set, he was like, what? You're meant to be in this movie? This is crazy. Yeah, so I completely grew up loving and watching those movies.
John gave us 10 movies to watch.
Yeah, we had homework
Pretty in Pink, Breakfast Club, Back
Say
to the Future. I didn't watch that one. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
My goal was to create the Marty McFly of our generation. And actually a critic said that I was like Marty McFly.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Without me ever announcing that was what I wanted to do. And that was one of like the biggest achievements I've ever had.
Homem-Aranha de Volta ao Lar arrecadou mais de 880 milhões de dólares na bilheteria mundial. E o herói imediatamente tornou-se um dos símbolos das próximas fases da Marvel no cinema. O sucesso foi tanto que a Sony decidiu fazer um derivado de Venom por conta própria, sem nenhuma ligação com o universo Marvel. O filme ainda é uma incógnita junto aos fãs, mas a certeza é que o Homem-Aranha de Tom Holland seguirá nos filmes da Marvel. Aliás, ele está garantido em Vingadores Guerra Infinita, onde irá usar justamente o traje do Aranha de Ferro, que lhe foi oferecido por Tony Stark no final do De Volta ao Lar. E no próximo episódio, a Marvel tenta repaginar o Deus do Trovão em seu terceiro longa. Depois de 2 filmes solos onde Thor é apresentado como um personagem mais sério, o estúdio procura focar mais no humor de Chris Hemsworth, chama um diretor especialista em comédia e revela um outro lado do herói em Thor Ragnarok.